Rico.toro. I gotta talk a little while because I'm a little wound up. So I already talked to some people anyways today because I'm social and I actually have conversation with people, unlike some of the people that I'm about to address in some form or fashion. So, interesting thing I was thinking about. So, whether you part of the travel community or the expat community, or live a carefree lifestyle of sorts, most of us are rather like free-spirited and just trying to live our best lives. We rather motivate and encourage others to enjoy their life, enjoy their best lives, rather than ridicule or criticize those that believe differently. However, say it again. These are some things that the squares, the miserable squares, and the self-righteous, judgmental people that, rather divide people. They rather talk about politics or divide people or look for differences rather than embrace similarities in people or just live and let live, basically. So these are some things they may say about us. They often do say about us, and to me, most of it is just comical. It's laughable, really, because, you can hear the misery in their voice. You could see the misery in their red, shaky eyes and twitchy eyebrows and everything else, so they love to criticize and things of that nature. And they think they're telling us something that we're not aware of half the time. Like we're not self-aware enough to know what we have to do, what we want to do, and etc. That's the funny part. So for instance, they'll say, you live in or you're traveling to these countries, so much a year, to be involved with, you're a 64-year-old man and you do this and that, to be involved with 24-year-old women, blah, blah, blah. If you only do that because you can't get it in America. Well, at 64 years old, do you think that guy does not know that? It's, if you stayed home, you couldn't do this or couldn't do that. Well, see, if it doesn't matter. It's actual and factual. So say, you're living in a fantasy world. Well, if it happened, it's not fantasy. If it's being lived, it's part of reality. So if that 64-year-old is banging out 24-year-olds for the first week of August, guess what? He's not, it's actual his reality for the first week of August. He's banging 24-year-olds. So it's no living in a fantasy world. And it's the old, if you don't have money, you couldn't do this or couldn't do that. Again, it's not about if. If that's the case, if. It's like saying if you don't have a passport, you can't get on an international flight. Well, no shit. So it's not about what if, it's about what's actual and factual and taking place, snapping necks, cashing checks. So, look at that avocado tree. Yes, got my own avocado tree. I bought it. Okay, I didn't buy it. But if I didn't live in Sosua or in the Dominican Republic or a tropical paradise, maybe I couldn't have an avocado tree in front of me. But it's not about if, it's actual. It's about what's actual. Just like, if I was living in the Campo or Alaska or even certain other apartments, wouldn't have a pool. But it's not about if, it's about actual. So here's another one. It's like saying if Hugh Hefner didn't have monies, he wouldn't have bunnies. We know that. Maybe he had some bunnies when he was younger. Maybe without the monies as he got older, he couldn't keep the bunnies. But he realized he's going to do what it takes, do what he has to do to continue to have the bunnies for his monies. So, that's another thing. It's like people like to make excuses for others living better than them. If I didn't have kids or if I didn't have a nasty ex-wife, I could be doing this or I could be doing that. This person, if they had the responsibilities I had, they wouldn't be able to do what they do. People like to make excuses for what they can't do or what others that they're envious are doing, instead of just making the most, or if a guy, if the guy is a 54-year-old chubby guy, we'll say on a scale of 1 to 10, society in the modern world, we'll say, America, Europe, Canada, the Western world, if they say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, that guy, based on his, $60,000 a year income and George Costanza appearance, he's a 3. So he only deserves to date a woman or be in a relationship or marry a woman that's a 3. Who says? Well, what if George Costanza, Art Vanderlei, what if he's been dating up his whole life? What if that 3, by society's opinion, has somehow found a way to always get maybe a 6 or a 7? Is he supposed to settle for a 3 because you think, Johnny Society or Kimberly Society, because there are a lot of opinionated, kind of self-righteous, miserable, square women out there too that think these things. Because you believe that that's all that person deserves, that's all they're going to get or deserve or should be happy with? No. See, part of being a free thinker is, we don't like the hand we're dealt. We move from the blackjack table to the poker table. Or we tell the dealer reshuffle. So it's about taking responsibility for your happiness and, rejecting what others think you deserve or what you should have. It's like it's like when I lived in Florida. I had some coworkers that claimed to be like, the all-American family and stuff. Rico.toro wasn't getting invited to the married people's Super Bowl parties or 4th of July cookouts. They're afraid I would come and just be myself and be honest. even though they like to pick my brain in the office. You know, I'm the guy they want to eat lunch with. I'm the guy they wanted to get to know a lot, because their lives are boring, and I'm not boring. So at least like 32% of the people out there think I'm not boring. So meanwhile, they're secretly miserable at home, got to jump off on the side, and come to find out another year and a half later, there's like 2 or 3 divorces happening in the office by these same people that pretend to be like the square, happy family couple that's doing it right, and me doing what I want to do is wrong. Here's another thing that a square will say. Johnny turns 47, and he says, my wife gave me a good BJ for my birthday. Well, Johnny, you do realize there's another 364 days. Not that she's going to do that every day or should be expected to do that every day. But I'm just saying, once a year, get the fuck out of here. And that's not normal. People, see, that's the thing squares will accept, and then they will judge us. You gotta go do this. You gotta spend money for this. Or whether it's your family, your close friends, your coworkers. Or there's another thing squares say. Well, you're dating or you're messing with those younger women or you're involved pay for play. You do realize they're just using you. No shit. Use me, please. By all means, use me. It's kind of like, yes, they're using me and us. We're using them too. It's better to use and be used and get what you want and then out of life what you're feeling and what you want, instead of being hungry, tired, frustrated, miserable, and judgmental. It's kind of like, look at the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, soccer, the UFC, Hollywood, the music industry. If somebody's not using us, don't you think most of those men and women basically in those industries, don't you think they're being used, for their money, for their fame, for their name, for what they could do for others, help you get a recording contract, or, buy you a condo on the beach, just don't tell my wife, yes, it's a no-brainer. We, us, they know what it is. So, like I said, these squares say dumb shit, acting as if like people aren't self-aware to know what's really going on. But at the end of the day, especially for the older man or woman, because there's some cougars out there, tigers, especially like, if you've worked your whole life, maybe you did raise a couple kids, maybe you did, divorce, pay some child support, substantial amount of alimony, college funds, etc. You worked 30 years, retired from the union, or you just been in business for yourself. You may have made $2 million, lost $3 million, and made another $4 million back. In the circle of life, but you're 64 years old, and yet you're gonna have some weaselly little 32-year-old, act like, what you're doing is wrong. you know, those girls or this or that, they're just with you for your money or whatever. Well, at some point, be it your mid to late 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, at some point there comes a time where no man or woman owes any square, any self-righteous, miserable prick, any sort of explanation for living well. I'm just saying. So, you know, that's the funny thing. And like I say, we're usually not the ones talking about them. They're the ones talking about us. Because you know what? Our lives are interesting. You know, they're boring. They're bored as hell. So they need people like us. You know, the travel community, the free spirits, the expats, living abroad, living luxurious or Puerto Rican and lovely, you know, sipping on bubbly, chubbies and lovelies. They need people like us, you know, because they ain't got nothing else to talk about. But we're supposed to apologize to them? I don't think so. We are supposed to just accept the cards we're dealt and not try to go for what we want, you know, on our own terms. You know, life is short, you know. Don't let somebody else tell you what you deserve, you know, or what you're supposed to have, you know, based on, you know, if you only, just because, you know, you're short, you're bald, you're fat, you know, you only have one leg, you know, don't let someone else tell you what you deserve. You know, if you can make it happen, whether it be from your financial advantage that you may have, or whether it be some other connections or just burning desire to live the way you want to live, and say hell with the naysayers, the doubters, the square bears, excuse me if I stole that from you, brother, but it's a good one. The miserable pricks and princesses out there, you don't owe them nothing. Live your best and don't apologize for doing so. Rico.t.toro.